opportunity to hear from both of them tomorrow. Chad?
Yeah. I just wanted to ask about the 3 Americans wrongfully detained in China. David Lin, Kylie, and Mark Sweeton. Can you commit that the Secretary will raise their names in his meetings with Chinese officials when he goes over the course of the next few weeks?
Again, I'm not going to get into a meeting that we haven't formally announced just yet. It's certainly not in any detail, but what I will say is that I can commit to you that every time the Secretary has a significant bilateral engagement with a country where this is in fact a concern of ours, it is something that is raised. We raise these cases on an individual basis. We raise the broader systemic challenge. The Secretary has no higher priority than the safety and security of American citizens around the world. Of course, that includes American citizens who are wrongfully detained anywhere in the world. The Secretary is very much personally invested in this. He often speaks with the families of wrongful detainees on the specifics of their cases. He has invested quite a bit in the diplomacy to try to deter this type of activity in the first place, to make clear to those countries who would engage in wrongful detention that this is not only something that the United States vehemently opposes, but it will carry costs and consequences from the rest of the world. That's an ongoing project. We are committed, just as we work with countries around the world to create and to reinforce that norm, to doing everything we can to see our wrongful detainees returned home to their families as quickly as we can. And oftentimes that includes very direct, very blunt, very frank conversations with our counterparts in countries where this is applicable.
And as far as we know, there aren't any active negotiations between the U.S. and China to secure the release of these 3 Americans. Is that accurate, or would you describe it in a different way?
I would describe it in a different way, but again, I'm not going to go into detail. I would describe it as the fact that we are always working to see the release of wrongful detainees. We do that in different ways, oftentimes in discrete ways, but just because something may not be on the surface doesn't necessarily mean it's not happening.
And one last question, just following up on the McCarthy question. You said that you're not aware of any potential McCarthy trip to Taiwan being announced. Is this department aware of any trip being planned currently?
That's not a question for us. It's a question for the Speaker in his office. Nazir?